What's up, fellow traders? Travis here again today to talk stocks and trading. Today's a little bit different. I've been doing some deep dives on Tesla and technical analysis there. But today I want to talk about general markets because I'm personally starting to get a little bit uneasy, and I want to go over what's giving me some concern, what I'm doing to prepare, and then go over my watch list and some technical analysis there. So let's get into it. So the first thing I want to show you is just a quick overview of my portfolio. I'm heavily invested in Tesla right now. If you go back and see my other videos, I've essentially made an all-in bet on Tesla last Thursday and did some technical analysis on that yesterday. So you see that here. I have 2,500 shares of Tesla at an average of, I think it's about $287 a share, 287.28. So that's doing very well for me. It's up about 150 grand. I have no intention of cutting that position right now. However, I am starting to clearly get defensive here. I've got a small short position in Nasdaq futures, small short position in Bitcoin. I sold some covered calls against my entire Tesla position that will expire this week. They're a 360 strike price, so I'm not expecting much more upward momentum this week from the stock. And again, we're going to talk about all this in a minute. I've got some MicroStrategy puts, some Tesla puts for a couple weeks out, and then some other stuff here, Palantir, SoFi, further out on expirations, right? They're not all clustered in the next 2 weeks. So I'm just starting to feel less bullish, right? And we've had a phenomenal week, So there's some of this, can you be argued, well, am I just simply getting too conservative because I feel like I've had such a fantastic week? And maybe that's at, play a little bit, but I think there's some other things to consider. I was on a walk with my wife a little bit ago, and she loves listening to me rant about economics and trading. I'm just kidding, right? But what I was explaining to her is it feels like a lot of the good news is priced in. And what I mean by that is we've had this deal with tariffs in China that's, is it a deal? Is it not a deal? It's just less bad than we thought it was going to be. We've had soft prints in consumer price index, inflation data. We've seen a resilient labor market, and I'm looking toward tomorrow and I'm thinking, okay, we've got PPI, we've got retail sales and unemployment claims. I think the expectation the market thinks right now is PPI is coming in soft, just like CPI did, and kind of business as usual. We're going to go higher. But if it does come in better than expected, I feel like that's kind of priced in at this point. But if it doesn't come in, as expected, that's definitely not priced in. So I think there's a risk event tomorrow, just with the data. And I think the risk is to the downside because upside has kind of already been priced in my mind. We're a bit priced for perfection. And what I mean by that is if you look at what's happened in the last, let's just look at, this is a Nasdaq QQQ. And if you look at where we've come from the bottom on April 7th and where we closed today, it's been 26 trading days. It's been about a month, right? 37 days, but 26 trading days. And we've gone up 29% in that time. It's a massive, massive move. And again, you have to start wondering how much of the good news is priced in. Where's the catalyst? And that's what I keep asking myself. What is the catalyst to push us through 540? What's going to get us there? Is it going to be another deal with China? No, because we kind of already have a deal, right? Is it going to be other tariff deals? Probably not. Nothing that's going to keep the market excited. So just like when we're going down, like we were here, just like we were kind of tumbling down and VIX was spiking, right, above almost 60. You kind of need catalysts in both directions to keep the momentum going. And I liken it to like a sugar high or sugar rush. Like you can eat a bunch of sugar and you get really hyped up and you're going to crash eventually, right? Unless you keep eating sugar. But there's only so much sugar you can keep eating, and you need increasingly more amounts of it. You can't just have a little bit more to keep that high going, because that's going to bring you down. So what I'm driving at here is, I'm not saying that the market is necessarily on a sugar high, but it kind of feels like it has been since the bottom. And if we want to keep this momentum going, there's been very little correction. We had one at the 200-day moving average. But if we want to keep this momentum going, what's going to get us there? And that's what I keep asking myself, because I don't see, more positive inflation data getting us there. I don't see tariff trade data deals getting us there. So what's going to happen? And when I frame it from that perspective, I really think that the risk is to the downside. So I'm starting to get a little protective. I'm shifting more from, pushing it to, hey, let's talk about holding on to some of these gains if things get a little bit rocky, right? And obviously that's not the only thing I'm seeing. One thing that's caught my eye is Bitcoin's, inability, for lack of a better word, to go higher in the current environment. And what I mean by that is Bitcoin hasn't gone anywhere since May 8th, really, the close of May 8th. Meanwhile, Nasdaq has gone, we can measure it. Nasdaq's gone up, 6% since May 8th. And that's not a knock on Bitcoin necessarily, but it is notable. Bitcoin has a huge rush. It led the Nasdaq higher, right? Which is kind of normal because it's a higher beta kind of play. It's going to move first and more aggressively in both directions. So I'm not saying, hey, Bitcoin is not confirming this move. No, I think the QQQs are catching up to Bitcoin's previous move, but it is notable that Bitcoin has not made another significant move higher since then. And I'm really looking at this level about 106,000, where we topped out here in December. We topped out here in January, and we're kind of top ticked at right here on May 12th. So it's not that Bitcoin is failing to go higher or not confirming the move higher in QQQ, but I'm kind of looking at it as well, potentially showing some weakness. And if Bitcoin starts to roll over, it kind of foreshadows what might happen with stocks. Beyond that, here is my kind of active watch list. I keep a short list of stocks, usually between 10 and 15 that I watch, and only those stocks really. I find this helps me focus and stay in tune with, a handful of ideas rather than trying to bounce everywhere and trade everything. And what I saw today, I saw popular meme stocks. HIMS is one. Kind of, I didn't say rolling over, but kind of flashing some warning signs. I've been watching this stock and I've been watching this channel for quite a while. We've had support at the lower bound. We've peaked above the upper bound, a few times. Once here, a little bit, big time here when we topped in February. And now we're again above the upper bound of the channel. And I'm not saying that the channel, it should be contained within the channel, but I am saying, okay, we're probably getting overstretched here. And when I zoom out, and this is going to be a common theme we're seeing with some of these names I'm going to show you, we're seeing a formation of bearish divergence with RSI, right? We haven't closed a new high on the weekly yet. We should be really close. But regardless of if we close a new high on the weekly, there's almost no shot that we don't print a bearish divergence with the RSI here, right? So it's just kind of flashing warning signs to me. It reminds me a lot of what happened here. Same kind of action where you got a nice new high, the weekly, the RSI did not confirm it. And we saw a nice pullback, right? When I go down my watch list, to SoFi is another one where I'm kind of seeing the same thing. I had this diamond top pattern drawn, or head and shoulders. I tweeted about it. I was like, choose your own adventure, right? Either one ends in the same result. And that's what happened. And when we're looking at this, we've got this kind of touch, touch, touch. I don't love this line, but it is interesting. And you could almost draw like a wedge here, a rising wedge to a degree. But again, if you zoom out to the weekly, you kind of see, this isn't the greatest example. I was going to show that divergence. I know it's on another name, but it's just SoFi showed some weakness again today. In particular, today we gapped up. I know this because I was in a trade here. This was today's action, right? We gapped up at the open. I had some calls and I thought about taking profits on those calls. I didn't, and it round tripped, right? And it didn't just round trip. It consolidated and then it broke down and then it went sideways. To me, that's a big warning sign. Like SoFi is kind of one of those meme stocks with a cult following that should be doing really well in this environment and has failed to really get back to all-time highs, unlike something like Palantir. Let's jump over to Palantir and look at that. Again, we're above those previous all-time highs, which is great, but what if a failure happens here? And it could. I'm not saying it's going to, but when I bump out to the weekly chart, this is what I'm talking about. Again, we're seeing this bearish divergence where we're very close to getting a weekly close above these last previous weekly closes, right? But RSI is not confirming this, okay? So that means the momentum to this move just isn't there to say, hey, yeah, all signs go, we're going higher. So I'm starting to get defensive on a lot of these names and, express those opinions accordingly, meaning I'm trying to hedge, I'm trying to get prepared for a potential pullback. MicroStrategy, it's going to echo a lot of what Bitcoin's doing, but it's really just failed to go higher. This is the daily chart. And, there's a lot of congestion, old congestion price memory back here in December. So we're contending with that. If we bump it out to the weekly, again, here's kind of that resistance I had drawn. And you have to wonder, have we just gone too far too fast? And if the answer is no, Travis, of course not. We're going much higher. It's all-time highs. Then my next question is, okay, what's the catalyst? How do we get there? And until I can answer that, I just have a hard time betting aggressively, if you will, on these continued patterns, especially when I see warning signs like Bitcoin not moving higher, names like SoFi not pushing higher on days when the momentum was in our favor, and it really should have kept going, right? So I'm playing some of these names for potential breakdowns, and you saw that with my puts in things like HIMS. I've got some puts in Palantir, both shorter and longer dated stuff. I'm mixing it up a bit. But overall, I would say my market sentiment, personal sentiment right now is shifted from, hey, all these awesome setups are working and they're everywhere, to, hey, things kind of feel stretched and I'm not really sure I see a reason to get heavy exposure at this point in time. And I'd rather wait and see. Does QQQ come back down and test like this kind of zone? 490? Sure would align nicely with these moving averages that are curling up higher, right? In the 200-day. Yeah, there's a big gap here we had that we could fill. It's all very much possible. And that's just kind of what I'm trying to prepare for. And I do believe that the fundamentals, the sentiment, if you will, is aligned with that kind of thinking, meaning we're priced for perfection at this point. And what if we don't get it? And I think it's something worth considering, right? Now, what if I'm wrong? What if we keep, rocketing higher? Well, the good news is I'm still very much exposed with my my bet on Tesla. I could close pretty much all of these. I don't have a ton bet on all these calls, and some of them are longer dated. So if I am wrong, I'll take my licks and keep moving here. But I really think I've positioned myself to at least give this a few days, if not a week and a half, to play out and either consolidate a bit, pull back a little bit, or just keep ripping and let me know that I'm really wrong about the situation. So those are kind of my thoughts. We'll see what tomorrow's data brings. I'm excited to kind of wrap this week up. To be honest, I've been freaking working like a dog on this stuff. So that's all I've got. And that's just kind of my stream of consciousness about what's happening in the market and why I'm starting to get defensive. So agree with me, disagree with me. That's totally fine. It's all my opinion. It's not financial advice. But please subscribe to the channel. I like these videos. I like doing them. And I would love to know if you appreciate them as well. Signing off.